Cineverb.
Hello and welcome to Cineverb, a weekly podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria.
And I'm David.
And this week on episode 48, we are discussing the 2021 film Dune, written by Eric Roth, Frank Herbert, Denis Villeneuve, and John Spates. And it is directed by Denis Villeneuve. And here's the official synopsis. Dune is a future adaptation of Frank Herbert's science fiction novel about the son of a noble family entrusted with the protection of the most valuable asset and most vital element in the galaxy, spice. As always, we will begin with a spoiler-free review, and after our ratings, we will go into a full spoiler discussion. And of course, we will give you plenty of time to pause the podcast when that comes. But first, let's get into our initial impressions. So I guess I have a question for you because I haven't read the Dune novel and I haven't seen the David Lynch version. Did you come to this with previous experience of either of those things?
I've seen the David Lynch version because I've seen every David Lynch film. He's one of my favorite directors, and I mean, it is definitely his worst film, and he's very embarrassed about it. And he probably hates that people keep asking him about it because this movie's coming out. Like he considers it one of his big failures, but it's really not that horrible. I mean, it is for a David Lynch movie, but it's very cartoonish and colorful, and the special effects aren't that great. Yeah. So those are the main differences, and it puts the whole story together into one film, tries to squeeze it all in. And it's very psychedelic and stuff. So that's that film.
Interesting. So you haven't read the book. You just watched that.
Nope.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was going to read this book like 2 months ago, and then I got lazy, and then now I'm like, well, shit, because this is, I guess for anyone that doesn't know, I mean, everyone should know by now that this is just part one of an adaptation of the whole book, which is, I think that's like a nice, or like an interesting story into itself, the whole part one, part two thing, because they totally marketed this as not a part one. Like, it's so obvious in all the like promotional stuff. Like I think even when it premiered in, I think it was like Venice or Cannes, or one of the film festivals where it first premiered, it didn't have the part one tag. So like I remember reading all the like critics who came out and were like, what the fuck? This is a part one. And then they added that in the theatrical cut. So like, you know, when we watched it, it did say, you know, part one. And then I love how it was like 2 seconds long.
Yeah, really quick. Yeah, that was kind of weird.
But so I guess let's start. What's your general take on this 2021 version?
Oh man, I don't know. I just, the more I think about it, the less I like it.
Wow.
Like the actual movie experience was pretty good. It's a good movie to see in the theaters and blah blah blah. The sound is really good and all that jazz. But like besides just the visuals and the blaring soundtrack by Hans Zimmer, I feel like the movie, the more I think about it, was pretty weak as far as every other aspect of the movie. I don't know. I think a lot of things were wasted, like all the great actors in the movie. I feel, I don't know. I think I was trying to figure out whether I was blaming it on like the creators of this movie, or maybe it's the story's fault, or maybe it's just the wrong timing, I feel like. Because I think that this movie, or this story, would do a lot better as like a mini series, or not even a mini series, like a full show with like multiple seasons, like Game of Thrones. I don't know. It just feels sad because I think that every good aspect of this movie like has been done way better in other things, and I just feel like this movie just didn't. It was an awkward rendition of this story, in my opinion.
Interesting. So I guess I had the exact opposite experience. I think like the majority of people or the majority of the critical reception is like it's a huge accomplishment, which is where I fall. Especially, I mean that's the part you said you liked is the the technical aspects, I think it's like it is. I mean, for me, it has the possibility of being like our generation's Lord of the Rings, just with how it like captures the sets and the costumes and the scope of it and the visuals and the sound design and the score
Hmm.
and like all that stuff. I watched it in IMAX like opening night, and it was like an out of body experience for me. Like I was just like shaking at I mean there's like like the score from like Hans Zimmer. Like he's like, I think he's the greatest living composer of all time. And I mean that's with not that much experience in film history, but especially with modern composers, I think he's hands down the best.
Hmm.
And just I don't know, I just love what he's doing in the score specifically. Like it's so, I don't know, it's so like organic and tactile for me, which is like so refreshing because like he's very hit or miss. Like he's my favorite composer because his greatest hits are like, I think, just full blown masterworks in cinema. But then in between them, he'll make like 20 movies that are just, or 20 movie scores that are just like, like it's almost like he's riffing on himself. Like after The Dark Knight, he made like 15 movies that sounded like The Dark Knight, and then
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I feel like this is one of his like little statement pieces where I feel like if he, like when he sits down and has the time and he's passionate about something, usually when he's working with like an auteur like Denny or Christopher Nolan or uh I love his score for Terrence Malick's The Thin Red Line. Like that's one of my favorite scores by him. Um, I think when he has the time, he really like pumps out something awesome. And like the way he uses like the female choir singers in the score. One specifically, I can't remember her name. I think I have it in my review. Uh, but the way she like screams in like certain scenes in this
Yeah.
film,
Yeah.
like a warrior chant, and I just love how at the end of her scream, it like it like cuts out almost like a, not, it doesn't cut out, but like her voice starts cracking almost like like a
Hmm.
Nirvana kind of song, like when Kurt Cobain is yelling and then at the end of his breath his voice cracks, and I'm like, god damn, like that's so awesome. I've never heard like a beautiful operatic singer purposely scream to the point where their voice has some sort of distortion to it, because it's like, I bet this performer, like a lot of performers who do choir, it's all about perfection and like being in a perfect note or signature
Yeah.
or whatever. So it's just cool him trying to like diversify that. And then there's another sound. It's like one of the instruments he made for the score, because like all the instruments that you hear and sounds are all like weird organic things that he like created with this like sculptor or whatever, and then they just like layered like digital post processing on it to like distort it even more. But there's one instrument that just sounds like, I don't know, it just sounds like a rib cage like ripping, and it like plays in some of the like more action heavy sequences, and it's like and like that in the IMAX theater, like, oh my god, I had like heart palpitations when I heard that.
Yeah.
But I
So
guess
I think I was speaking of the music, like I think I was really spoiled by Blade Runner 2049 because
the score
like I went back.
or the film.
Yes, the score, well, both, but just speaking of the score, like that score is just, that's Hans Zimmer too, right? I'm not
Yeah,
like mistaken on that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that one is just I went back and listened to that, and I was like, this is just in certain scenes, just random. I just watched a bunch of random scenes from that movie, and I was like, this music is so good. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's so immersive and like different and like various, but it's like you were, all the things you were saying, but I just didn't feel that
Hmm.
with the Dune soundtrack. What I remember of the music, obviously the obvious stuff like the singing, like you're talking about, and but mostly I just remember it being like way too loud.
Oh.
I just remember, like there was one scene where I literally did like hold my ears. I don't do that very often in movies, but it's like I felt like they were overwhelming us with the music to where I was like, well, this is just like trying to make us feel something with by just blaring this soundtrack at us. But
Yeah.
I don't know. And that kind of connects to like the main thing I feel like that was missing from this movie, that rewatching just random scenes from Blade Runner, I felt so much again, was like that this movie has no, and I know this is part of the Dune the books and stuff kind of aesthetic, but like it has no emotions. It was just so, the whole movie was just so emotionless that like anything else, any other franchise that you're like comparing it to, like you mentioned Lord of the Rings, like Lord of the Rings has emotion. Like every character emotes and you can feel what they're feeling and they feel like real humans. But with Dune, it's just like I didn't really connect with any of these great actors that were in the movie. Like all of them were just like robots, basically. I don't know. And when they weren't robots, like the Jason Momoa character, like it made me feel like I was watching a Marvel movie, like some of his dialogue.
Oh yeah.
And so it felt really weird compared to the rest of the tone of the movie, the kind of emotionless tone of the rest of the movie. I mean, the best that any character got in this movie was Rebecca Ferguson's character as the mom. Honestly, she was the most compelling, like as an actor in the movie. But still, even that, it's just in comparison to all the other actors who were just kind of like not. I mean, Zendaya is the worst example, where it's just like, she wasn't really a character in this movie, but every time, like, she didn't do anything. Like, it was just her staring at the camera, and that's it, and that's all we know of her character. Oscar Isaac is such a great actor, as we've talked about him, but like he was basically just stoic his entire performance that I can remember. Timothy Chalamet, like, Call Me by Your Name is like one of my favorite movies of all time, and he's great in that. But like this movie, he literally is just a dud, just like standing there, just a cardboard cutout. Like, I don't know. And then there's like one scene where he screams, like that's the most emotional that he gets. But it feels weird and kind of comical. I kind of laughed a little bit, where I was just like, oh man, this is weird, because this is supposed to be an emotional moment, but it just feels so weird because it's out of nowhere from the whole rest of the movie.
Wow.
Which is just very dead. And then the color palette didn't help at all. Like the whole color palette of this movie just left the whole impression of the movie that I have in my head is just gray. Like it's just kind of like a sandy gray, just smudge. Like this whole movie, that's just what it looked like. And I just don't think it was a very good choice to make it that like muted and stuff, because it just makes the whole movie so monochrome and lifeless. I don't know. So I don't know. The best parts of this movie to me was like the world building stuff, which could have been done way better if they'd made this movie like a Game of Thrones-esque show. Because I feel like it deserves that. I mean, there's like 15 Dune books. I was reading about the lore and stuff of this story. It's huge. Yeah. And so you could make a Game of Thrones, 7-season show out of it if you wanted to. Yeah. And give it a similar budget, and it could have similar special effects. And so I was like, why is this a movie, or why is this a 2-part movie versus any of those other things? So I don't know. So it was just all like a lot of it was just depressing to me a little bit. It's like I wanted to like it so much, but in reality, after the more I thought about it, I'm like, I'm gonna forget about this movie really easily. I feel like, compared to anything else like Blade Runner or Star Wars or anything similar, like even Game of Thrones, I feel like I'm gonna remember more of that than this movie. But
so you think it was just all that blandness because that's so weird, because I loved basically all the performances. Like I will agree that I think that the story is very slim emotionally, and that narratively it's a lot. And that's like, I'll get into the spoilers, because I think there's a flaw where this film is cut, like where it stops. I think that is like the major flaw of this film, is that it should have cut way earlier and then just expounded more. Because this has like the same, and I don't know if this is in the book or what's going on, but like I feel like a lot of like, because I guess this is like technically a YA kind of novel, because I think Paul Atreides is supposed to be like a teenager. So let's just say that teenage fiction with sci-fi or fantasy, it's always like the main character is always the least interesting person in the story. Like you have it with Twilight, you have it with this, and I mean, I don't know Game of Thrones, but just in general, I feel like the biggest flaw of that genre or subgenre of like novels is that the main character's like, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, and I'm too young and I'm too weak and all this like I have feeling all this responsibility, and they don't have
Yeah.
anything like actually interesting about them. And like how you mentioned Rebecca Ferguson's character, she is definitely like the star of the film, and there was moments where I was like, why don't we just follow her? Like why
Well, they're gonna make a spin-off show,
Oh, with her?
apparently. Yeah, and with about the Bene Gesserit, like specifically, it's gonna be Dune Sisterhood, is what it's gonna be called. Yeah, and I'm like, well, why didn't they just do that with Dune?
Yeah.
I don't understand. HBO would be a great platform to make that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I'm at the opposite. Just because I don't watch TV, like now I'm not gonna watch that, and now I'm not gonna know the best part of this stuff. But shit, what was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna say. So yeah, I think that like that's kind of the flaw, because like I like Timothy Chalamet as well, and I think he is kind of like the weakest part of this whole narrative is his character's arc. But then it's like, I don't know, the weird thing that I struggled with, because I think, you know, this kind of falls in line with how I viewed Taxi Driver. Like, it's technically perfect, but then the story and the emotional elements of the narrative is where it kind of falls flat. And like I felt that as well. Like I was intrigued only to a point, and then, you know, I started becoming like more confused. Like, like where is this gonna, you know, like if there's no payoff, you know, you're kind of just lingering there. And that's where it's like, well, how do I judge this thing if it's half of a thing? You know, like I feel like there's because even the Lord of the Rings, when those came out, I feel like the Fellowship, the Two Towers, and the Return of the King, like they all kind of have, like, I feel like each part you could watch them individually, and it's almost like a self-contained 3 arc structure within each part of those films. So like this is the only film that I can remember seeing, and like maybe you can think of one where it's like it's not a fully 3 arc, you know, laid out. It's a complete, like, I don't think this is complete at all. Like I don't think anyone can watch this whole film and then be like, oh, I'm okay, like I'm satisfied narratively.
Right.
Yeah.
But every other good example of this, like it is like that, like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, or you know, you could just watch one movie and like be narratively satisfied.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I don't know why they did this.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did it this way.
Yeah. So I guess there was another thing I want to talk. Well, I guess so. I'm just confused why the visuals didn't work for you, because I thought those would, especially because I thought that the angular and the like brutalist architecture and the, I mean, I thought the color palette was super orange, if anything, and I love the minimalism of it. I think it is like a complete different departure, and like again, it's not Roger Deakins, so you're not getting the intense use of like depths and shadows, and like Roger Deakins is like, I know he likes to say he doesn't like purposely overlight things, or like he's not, you know, extreme in his lighting, but his, like, any frame of a Roger Deakins film, you can be like, oh shit, that's Roger Deakins. You know, like he does have just a natural extreme eye of beauty. You know, like everything looks kind of perfect in a weird way. And I think this cinematographer, I think it's Greg Fraser, he has like a way more, it's almost like there is no lighting.
Yeah.
You know, like there is.
I'm looking at his other movies. Yeah, I just Googled that, and it's like, yeah.
So it is.
Oh no,
totally.
That's
like
probably
a different, you know, visual aesthetic. But for me, I think it worked for the idea of this film, which is nature, and you know, it's very naturalistic. Like I don't think I think Roger Deakins can do anything, so he would have made this look beautiful. But I think for this film, I liked how it wasn't, you know, like Blade Runner. Every single shot in Blade Runner is like a fucking portrait that you can hang on your wall. Where this, I like how it's almost like a, like, what is that, nature, like a National Geographic, more of a style. You know, like nothing's really screaming at you. It's just everything's here, and it's just composed very beautifully.
Yeah, I just found, I don't know, like literally I don't know. The only beautiful shots are the ones that stand out in my head that I remember, that I would say, oh yeah, that looked really good, were like the random dream sequences and Zendaya shots. Like it kind of just looked like a photo shoot, but like at least those had like color, you know, like there's usually like the orange, like the sun or whatever. But like
Yeah.
every other scene was just so boring. Like just the color, like and the composition and like everything is just so boring. Now that I'm looking at this guy's other movies, it kind of makes sense. Like he did Rogue One, which is kind of one of the uglier looking Star Wars movies.
Oh,
And just a bunch of other
I actually like.
dull.
I think Rogue One was probably one of the, for me, one of the. But like, I think we just have different visual taste then.
Maybe I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. The aesthetic just doesn't. The murky aesthetic
Yeah.
didn't work for me for some reason. Didn't leave a strong impression. And because nothing else left a strong impression, there was just no impression. Like if there's no, some movies, at least it leaves a strong visual impression on you. But even this movie didn't do that. So literally my favorite parts of the movie or favorite shots were the ones that were like way zoomed out and you were seeing this just insane spaceships, the scale of it with the tiny little humans underneath in the shadow of them, or there's one beautiful shot of all the ships coming out of I guess the portal that they use for interstellar travel, and they're just kind of drifting out like little seeds, that are going down onto the planet. Like I thought that was a really nice shot.
Yeah.
But all of those, I don't know if the cinematographer had anything to do with those. Those are just the special effects artists, so I mean, I guess they were the MVP for me of the movies, were whoever did those shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to remember that, like those things. And then also just things that I wish I would like to learn more about, like the Bene Gesserit and the lore and stuff of the movies. Yeah. But nothing that was actually in the movie.
Yeah. And that's what confused me a lot is it's like, well, if part 2 comes out and it explains everything, and then suddenly part 1 becomes better, and then I'm like, man, that's weird. Like I don't know, like that's just a weird, like I don't know. It's just like it's a weird conflicting feeling for some reason for me.
Yeah,
because I do feel like they could fix a lot in part 2, but then I'm like, I don't know. It's like it's kind of like what with the MCU stuff. Like you can, like in Iron Man 3, you can say he's an alcoholic or whatever, and then when you rewatch part 1 and 2, you're like, oh well, he's an alcoholic. We just don't know about it yet.
Retcon some stuff. Yeah.
But I am excited for part 2. Well, I guess one last thing before I ask for your rating. So would you say this is better than the other version from David Lynch?
Yeah, I guess it's technically better and less awkward than the David Lynch version. Yeah. But it really depends on your aesthetic. If you're just really if you're into goofy special effects and like and 80s movies, then yeah, you probably would really like the first Dune. But it's much more visually satisfying than this movie, in my opinion. But yeah.
All right.
I forgot what your question was.
No, that was it. So what would you give Dune Part 1 out of 10?
Oh my God. I was like, the more I thought about it, the more my rating was slipping down.
Oh no.
But I think I'm just going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Oh.
Because it's like, it's obviously, it's like, it's a smooth movie. Like lots of movies are awkward, so it's not awkward or anything. There's nothing about it that's awkward. It's very smoothly executed. And also, I guess one kind of thing that it's got going for it is that it's a really long movie, but it doesn't feel long. It feels really short. Lots of people are saying that. Yeah. But that might have been because I was anticipating the ending, because I already knew that it was a part 1, and I already knew people saying that the ending wasn't very satisfying. So the whole movie, or the last half of it, I was just like, is this the ending? Is this the ending? I was just doing that for the rest of the movie. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it at a 6 out of 10, I think. Wow. I honestly wouldn't watch it again.
Wow.
At all, I don't think.
Oh my
I don't think I would watch it again.
All right.
If anything, I'll watch like YouTube scenes of like the special effects shots that I liked, and that's it.
Well, all right. So I guess my review and rating, So I guess my little wrap up. Well, I will say, you can check out my review, my written review on cineverm.com, and then I have a little video review. Well, actually, I wouldn't recommend anyone watch that. But anyways, so I guess what I have to say about this film before my rating is, I think it's a magnificent piece of work. Just on a technical level, like as someone who is very interested in filmmaking, this seems like a monument of a technical challenge. Like the last film that I watched that made me feel, like in awe of the craft of filmmaking was probably like Mad Max. And I think many
Mad Max is just so much more impressive than this movie. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I felt like this film like is on par with that, just on a technical level. Like the way it captures the landscapes, the imagery, I mean the set designs, the costumes, the imagination, like the way they brought to life and envisioned this whole film. Like everything felt so real to me. Like it felt completely textured, and like all the world stuff made sense, like how the characters were interacting with the world and using different tools, and the structure of everything, the society and stuff. Like I don't know, just everything felt so real. Everything in this film felt realer than any other sci-fi film I have ever seen, with the exception of like Blade Runner 2049. Like I feel like that's probably like Denis' special gift, is making something that's out of this world feel like really mundane, but in a beautiful way. Like everything in Blade Runner 2049 feels so lived in. Like there's scenes when,
Yeah.
like in that film, when I just like one of the most impactful scenes for me, I don't know why, is when he's just walking in front of that. I guess it's like a prostitute parlor or whatever with the frosted glass, and just like I don't know, that image in that scene where it's just a normal guy walking down a street, but then it's like this is so weird. But then it's like it just feels real. Like I can see that in the future, in some alternate reality or whatever. So I feel like he has a gift. I don't know if it's the same production designer and art designer from Blade Runner, but I think he just has like a tact of bringing weird things to life in a believable way, where I'm never questioning like any element of the world or the craft. And I feel like no other filmmaker can really do that very well. Like I'm thinking like the only other filmmaker at his scale, like making big blockbusters with this kind of budget, is like Christopher Nolan. And there's always something wrong with like as much as I love Christopher Nolan films, like there's always some like logic breaking, or like, wait, this doesn't make any sense, or like physically, or like things don't feel like they're lived in the same way that Denny does. So I think that's the greatest accomplishment of this film. I do feel like narratively it's weakened because it's a part one, and there's like a lot of things that I don't understand. And emotionally, I do agree, like we're following the least interesting character. So with that, I will give the film a 9 out of 10. I still think it is a phenomenal piece of cinema for anyone interested in cinema, or if you like visuals. And yeah, that's my hot take. But that concludes our review portion of Dune. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe or leave a review or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com. Also, be sure to check out our snazzy website, cineverm.com, where we also have written reviews. And speaking of reviews, I just launched a YouTube channel called A Lonely Critic, where I will be doing short video reviews of all the new blockbuster releases. So, and also, if you like comics, you can check out Comic Verm, where I review comics with my friend Jeffrey Carroll. And you can also check out his podcast, The Back Bedroom, and then tell him I sent you. So, yeah, I have a lot of plugs now. I've been busy. But anyway, so let's get into the spoilers of Dune. So, yeah, pause now if you don't want to be spoiled. So, I guess the biggest thing I want to spoil, because I think this was my favorite part of the film, and we didn't mention it in the review, so now I'm like curious if you dislike this. But what did you think about I forgot his name, Stellan Skarsgård, evil character?
Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah, I liked it. But see here. Oh man, I'm too negative. But I'm just thinking like even in the old movie, like, well, let me think actually. In the David Lynch version, I remember that character, and he was he was even more disgusting in the David Lynch version. He just had sores on his face and stuff like that, which was kind of cool. But I can't remember if he floated like this character does.
Yeah.
But I liked the visual of it, because there were times that I thought, like, is he just a big worm, you know, like that just, or a snake or something? But then I read afterwards that he just uses flotation devices.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he was a great, perfect like pick for that character. His face and his voice, his gravelly voice,
Yeah,
is great, and just watching him wallow in a pool of oil and gray mud was nice.
Oh man, see, I loved it. I thought that was probably one of the best character designs I've seen in a long time. Just because I was confused when he started raising up, I was like, oh shit, he's really tall. But then, you know, like I realized
Yeah.
he's whatever. Like it gave me like a weird sense of like, kind of like Star Wars, like, or what I imagine the best of Star
Yeah.
Wars is like a very physical being, and then
Mhm.
you think it's like surreal, and then it's revealed that it's something simple, but then it still has this weird like magical essence to it, you know?
Yeah, it's like the Wizard of Oz, like the man behind the curtain. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, he wants to look more powerful than he really is, but
Yeah. So
in reality, he's just like an obese, cursed man.
yeah. So I guess speaking off of this, because because you were talking about in the review that a lot of other films have done this better. I haven't seen the original Star Wars trilogy. I've just seen the prequels and then the new ones. And I felt just watching this film, I was like, oh my god, did Star Wars steal like everything from this book? Because I was like, suddenly all the Star Wars stuff I have seen. Again, I haven't seen the legit ones, the legit 3. All my opinions of Star Wars like dramatically fell after watching this. Where I'm thinking you maybe had the opposite reaction, like this was worsened because films like Star Wars have done it better.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I was just like, like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever read anything about that. Like, if George Lucas even read Dune. I know, you know, some of the stuff that he based it off of was like, you know, the Flash Gordon serials from the 1930s, and you know, movies like The Seven Samurai, and so he had a lot of influences.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean,
I don't know if I've ever heard anyone mention like if he read Dune when he was writing Star Wars or not. But
yeah.
but yeah, I think a lot of maybe the ways that it portrays things visually and stuff.
Yeah,
Are,
like the Sand Planet, you know, I know a little
Yeah.
bit of, and then for me the one that really got me was the voice that they used in this film, and I was like, wait, isn't that the Force? You know, it's like
No,
the Force
I'm not
mind tricks, you know, like when they're like, grab the
sorta,
lightsaber.
yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's like the Jedi mind tricks a little bit, but yeah, to me, I was trying to figure that out, like why. I mean, it's because I read a quote like where Denis Villeneuve was saying, "Oh yeah, this is like Star Wars, but like for adults."
Yeah,
And I was like, that's. I didn't like that quote after seeing the movie, because I was like, first of all, it's not even like it's PG-13, so
yeah,
it's a little watered down from what it could be for if it's supposedly for adults. And then second of all, like, it's good that Star Wars is for all ages. Like, that's part of what makes it great, is like anyone could watch Star Wars and not be like, it's universally appealing, you know. I feel like Dune, the stereotype of Dune is that it's very appealing to teenage boys, just because it has like that very like technical aspect to it, you know. It's not very, it isn't very emotional, and it's very just about like mind over matter, and you know, but then it also has that very like enticing chosen one kind of plot,
yeah,
where it's like, which I didn't like in Star Wars, obviously Luke Skywalker, but see, that's the thing, he's not really chosen. That's the problem. And even Lord of the Rings, like Frodo is sort of chosen, but like it's not fate, you know what I mean? Like, it's not totally decided, where I feel like with Paul Atreides, in Dune, at least from the movie, because I haven't read the book, but based on this movie, it seems like he has no control over anything. Like it's nothing about him that makes him the chosen one. It's literally because all these other forces, it's predetermined.
Yeah.
Like it's predetermined that he is the chosen one.
Yeah.
Whereas like Luke Skywalker had to make a lot of choices and decisions like to be where he is.
Yeah.
So
well, I think the chosen narrative works if there is some struggle and challenge. Like I'm thinking the one that's done it the best that I've seen is The Matrix. Like Neo is a compelling character because of his internal conflicts and then his, desire to, fix everything, and like that's the central, I guess, struggle of that character, and like wanting to escape his boring reality. And like that's the thing where I think that's what Paul's missing. And I don't know if this is in the book, this is just going off this film, is that there's some conflict that's not there. Like what is his, is his point? Like does he like, I guess there's parts where he's like, I don't know if I'm ready, but then we never see any like actionable version of that, of him like maybe running away or maybe, like there's a ton of writerly things you can do to like show that versus, just one scene of him talking to Oscar and like, I don't know if I'm ready. And then, I mean, that was a nice moment and it looked beautiful, but I think emotionally that probably didn't help at least connect with you or me very much.
It's like the big problem I feel like is that Paul is very privileged to start out with. Like Luke Skywalker is just a poor like dirt farmer, on a random planet, and he ascends to being like, what he becomes, and like also Frodo or whatever, like he's just a random hobbit.
Yeah, they're weakened, they're small, they're short.
That's an important part, I feel like, of that archetype
of
like the chosen one, like the innocent or a hero or whatever.
Yeah.
But Paul is already a prince, basically.
Yeah.
And
he has an Instagram. I'm just kidding.
He has an Instagram. Oh yeah. Yes. He's got his cars and his, pictures of him and what's that freaking, United Arab Emirates. But yeah, he definitely would. But yeah, so I don't like, it's hard to empathize with him because he's already very privileged, and he basically, the only scary thing that I connected with was the famous like hand scene where I'm like, oh, okay, that would suck, that your mom just kind of like set you up without like telling you any of this was going to happen.
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you could die if your will isn't strong enough.
Oh my god! You just made me think. So like, if I could rewrite this film, you could have done this. So all right, you remember the Green Knight, right? And how it's a mother kind of setting him up for these challenges to become a man. What if you kind of translated? Because that's what she's doing. She's giving him all this power. He didn't ask for it. And it's like, oh, and then you can die in this process. And then it's kind of like the Green Knight, where it's a mother challenging a son to live up to a certain expectation. And here you could have, because I was waiting for that moment of like, when is he going to be like, Mom, you're great. Like, our dad just died. The whole city is exploded. All for like what's going on, like, and no one really knows. Like, and that's the other part of this film that I was confused by. Like, maybe it's this thin in the novel, or maybe this film just decided not to have it all. But it's like I get the political conflict, but I don't feel like it was built up enough. Like, I feel like there is a very cool, dramatic, political, maybe more intrigue into this film, where you see the father, Oscar Isaac, being more diplomatic, or like showing that side. Like, I feel like they barely dig into that, and then showing more of the mother doing these dark dealings. And then I don't know, there's just like something weird that I feel like is missing.
Yeah, all of that was kind of in the background, just implied, but they didn't like show anything of the parents' past. Yeah, and I heard people complain that they didn't show the Emperor, which I guess he's an important character in the book, and they'll probably show him in the second movie.
Yeah.
But feels like that would be important just because he's the head of this whole system, and he's the one that I guess he wants these houses to battle because they're both kind of strong, and so he wants them to be weaker. So
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, so like I didn't get that idea. I mean, I did get the idea that this was like set up as like an obvious attack, like this group would leave and then this group comes in and now they're weakened and then they attack. Like I get that, but I don't get that the characters, like I feel like it's like the Hitchcock idea. You set a ticking time bomb and then you show it to the audience. Like I feel like there's a political time bomb that you could have set early on where maybe Oscar Isaac is like, I know they're going to come and we're disadvantaged, and like can we accelerate to do whatever to become ready, and I guess that leads me into
Wait, that was in the movie a little bit, because I was thinking that is something I kind of like, or I did feel that a little bit, like how hopeless it was for Oscar Isaac's character, because like he seems like a good person, but he's just like trapped in these games that all these people are playing, including his well, not his wife, but his baby mama, or whatever her her title is.
See, that's the other thing. He was like, I wish I would have married you, and I was like, wait,
yeah, that was an interesting little could have been an interesting thing to explore, but yeah, they didn't really go into that very much.
And then there's that one scene where he's grabbing the back of her neck, and it totally feels like a super possessive thing. And now I'm thinking with the Bene Gesserit, where like we have to cross bloodlines to create a perfect child, which leads me to believe that she was just a vessel for the Bene Gesserit, and they're like, all right, you need to mate with this guy. Like maybe there was originally no connection between them. It's like we just have to create a daughter, and then maybe they kept killing kids or boys, and then this last boy, they were like, all right, we're going to keep this one and keep it secret, because like the whole thing was the one is supposed to be a female.
Yeah, for them. Yeah, that's what their plan was. Yeah, and then that confused me, because then it's like the mom is pregnant, so there's going to be he's going to have a sibling, but there's a lot that I read about the novels. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Don't know if you care if I spoil the plot, the future plot of the novels.
Yeah.
I was reading a bunch.
Yeah, don't spoil
it.
but I do want to ask one thing, and like try not to spoil this. But every time I hear the supporters of this film, which I am one in a more technical aspect, but I know there's a lot of critics who've read the book and they're saying all your complaints are going to be fixed in part 2. Like the whole white savior thing, the whole like privileged white dude thing, the whole like, what's the point thing, and the political stuff. Like all the people who've read the book said in part 2 that it does everyone says it subverts what you're expecting.
Yeah.
So
let me just say a sly way to not spoil it. It sounds to me like it's going to be kind of like the dream sequence in The Green Knight sort of vibe, but like if the dream sequence was real.
Oh,
that's what it sounds like to me. Which was like The Green Knight. I was excited about that aspect of the movie, but from what I've read about the Dune story, I was like, okay, this sounds like if they just went all the way with that. But
okay, so from what you know, are you like excited to see that come to fruition?
Honestly,
do you think that would,
just because of this movie? Like I don't even think I would want to see the second movie in theaters.
Oh,
it's kind of bad, but I'm just like, with this foundation, I'm just kind of like,
what?
It's not gonna be that interesting I mean, I'll watch it, but I'm probably not gonna pay for it in theaters to go sit in a theater and watch it. I don't know.
Wow.
Because it's just, also because it's because it's so plotty, that I was just like, well, I could just read the plot on Wikipedia and find it really interesting to think about. And I'm like, well, I don't even need to see the movie, because probably my version, I don't know. It's bad, but I'm like, I kind of trust my version in my head to be better than whatever they're going to make of the sequel of this.
Man,
I'm still going to see it, but I honestly, it feels the same to me as like Star Wars, the most recent 3 Star Wars, where I went into it really wanting to like it, and it had so much hype and everything. And then you come out of it and you're just kind of like trying to rationalize it in your head as being better than it was. And then over time, you're just kind of like, yeah, it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
It's a years in the making, and all of this hype and all this money and talent and stuff. And then it's released and you're just kind of like,
it's nothing. Yeah.
wasn't really that great.
Wow,
Kind of forgettable.
That's crazy.
That's how I feel about it.
Something happened to you in that theater. Like someone,
No,
someone,
nothing.
someone,
I
maybe
wasn't
someone touched
traumatized.
you, and you're.
The theater experience was rather pleasant. It was fine, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well,
I just
I want to say one thing because I'm going to forget. So, anyone listening, fast forward 30 seconds if you want to know nothing at all about the future Dune novels. This, I know for a fact this will not show up. This is in like the later books, like towards the end. But this is how, like, this was spoiled to me, and this is how crazy it gets. So,
Yeah,
fast
I think I know
forward
what you're saying.
30 seconds. Okay. So, at one part, in one of the novels, there is a sandworm human hybrid baby.
Yeah. I thought that was so cool. I read about that. I was like, oh, that's kind of sick. I'm not gonna lie. But see, that's something that if they'd made this into a Game of Thrones type show, they could have made like 7 seasons. That would be in like season 5, or whatever. Because isn't that like it's like a great grandson or whatever of one of these main characters in this movie. So,
but that would imply that
cool
someone
too.
had sexual intercourse with that worm.
Oh no! I read the excerpt from the book, and it's just a weird, like, he just lets them merge with him, and somehow drugs are involved, and that makes it easier for them to become like a symbiote. And
wow,
I don't even know, but that sounded pretty interesting to me.
All right. Anyways, spoilers over. You can come back now. Oh man. So I guess one thing. So I guess the other part I want to talk about in the spoiler section is how I would have changed this how he cut the film. I think so. The last 30 to 45 minutes of this film is post city exploding. I would have literally cut there. I would have cut with them escaping through that little helicopter thing and then crashing. And then they're like you just watched every character you've spent 2 hours with just die. And I think like if I could remake this film, the goal, the like emotional goal for that ending would be like, you've seen the Desolation of Smog, right?
I think I've only seen part of it on
man, I'm trying to think of
TV.
another movie that ends with like a super high note. Well, anyways, at
high note?
Yeah, like where it ends in like a climactic consequence, and you're like, oh fuck.
Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yeah,
Star Wars.
I haven't seen that, but everyone says that ends with a like, oh my god, like you're like the film ends and you as a viewer are thinking the worst possible situation of,
how was this gonna resolve?
Yeah, and I think this film could have had that with the attack, and maybe you don't even show the whole destruction of the city. You just show the beginnings of it, and then you're showing a select few characters die, and then you have him. Like, I feel like that could have been like a whole 15-20 minute sequence of them escaping the city, and it was just like he wakes up and then he walks into a helicopter, and then they leave, and I'm like, what? And then like Josh Brolin's character, which he's just like walking into a battlefield, just like screaming, and then everything's being exploded. Like, it looked awesome. I love the idea of the scene, but like, I don't know. I just feel like Denny should have like called Christopher Nolan and could have been like, all right, I need your triple layer action scene here. How do I, create chaos?
We need to Dunkirk the scene.
Yeah,
because it was really. What I liked about that sequence was how sudden it was. All of like the attack did feel very like shocking and sudden. But then when you zoomed in on the characters, it was weird, anticlimactic. Like, oh, that was a little too easy for them to get out.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah, it would have been great if they just stopped the movie when they're fleeing into the desert, or like where they're looking from the desert, back on the city. Yeah. Or maybe they could, or honestly, they could have ended it at the right when they encountered the sandworm, and there's that the sandworm staring, at him when they had just barely escaped. They could have just cut it right there. Yeah. That would have been a nice cliffhanger.
Yeah. Because there was that huge, tension release of the attack on the city, and then the escape, and then it's like this weird they get to the other, I forgot the names of the Dune people. They run into them.
The Freeman?
Yeah, the Freeman. Morgan Freeman's, and then they get to them, and then it's like it starts building again. Like we start building another emotional arc of that. I guess I have a question. Like, what did you think about that little fight scene where he kills one of the the Freemans?
That was one where I was like, that very bad.
Yeah.
Not just for all the reasons we just described of a bad reason for that to be the end of the movie, but also because I just feel like that the whole scene was just so poorly executed.
Yeah.
Like how it was shot was weird. They made the weird decision to just not, like, the whole movie, you have this huge bombastic music and score, and then in that scene when they're fighting, there's no music, which sometimes works really well in some movies, but in this one where it's so cinematic and that music is just blaring at you the entire movie, it was really weird to not have any music during that scene. Kind of sucked some of the excitement out of it. And then the choreography wasn't that great. It was just kind of awkward, honestly. For a movie of this high budget, I was like, they could have done way better fight choreography and could have shot it way better, like with some close-ups to where on the faces and stuff, to where you really felt like the danger of it. And there could have been some way more like close calls.
Yeah.
It was way too easy for Paul to beat him, like way too easy. And like comically, like he just was, I don't remember him ever getting close to getting hit critically or anything. And then he just immediately had the guy, like knife to throat. And then they fought again, and then he just did it again, like it's like, man, okay.
Yeah.
These Freemen should be ashamed of themselves if that's the best they got.
Yeah.
That this little teenager can beat this guy. But yeah. So yeah, all of that was just very anticlimactic. And then the end when he kills him, I was like, oh man, yeah, this is like supposed to be so emotional, Yeah. This is the first guy he's killed ever, and he's just a teenager. But then it really wasn't that emotional. He just kind of walks away.
Yeah, they move on very quickly.
Bland expression on his face, and that's it. There's not really any emotions from Timothy Chalamet about it.
Yeah.
There's more emotions from his mom about it, honestly. But
yeah. And yeah, I mean, I agree. I like the scene, but I do think it could have been way, like, if as a filmmaker and storyteller, this is, the last action scene, like this is supposed to give them a high that was bigger than the city attack, I'm just thinking, like, there is in cinema great final fights. Like, I mean, Gladiator, like all the fight scenes in Gladiator, like you could just look at that and just look at the brutality and the physicalness and like how real it feels, like in Gladiator, like when he's like fighting all these soldiers, there's multiple points of them like losing their weapons or just being like handicapped in some way, and then it just boils down into like this weird, horrible, fist fight, or like, I feel like they could have captured that, especially with how they kind of set up the Fremen as like monster, or not monsters, but as like savages, I think is what one of the characters calls them. Like that did not look like that savage of a fight. I was expecting like full blown, like spider monkey kind of like, I will kill you at all costs, like.
Yeah, like I will bite you, like I'll kick you in the balls.
Yeah.
if I need to. Yeah, no, it was very principled. Well, but I mean that is part of like, I guess that everyone views the Freemen like that, but like they're not really like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of just a racism thing.
Yeah.
But
man, but
they're very principled in reality.
Yeah,
like,
and I mean it would have been cool to show that even more, like, because I don't think the fight scene really narratively said anything, like I'm thinking even like the fight scenes in like Shang-Chi, they had some emotional purpose, like it was like, this is my mother's fighting style, and I don't know, you could have done some sort of like just extended that moment. But yeah, that was weird. And then I don't know, it was just weird being like, I just killed this guy, and then everyone's like, respect. But I guess that's
I didn't understand. I honestly didn't understand, like leading up to the fight, what was happening.
Yeah.
It was like I didn't understand that at all. It was like, okay, they were going to attack them, because they need the water or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mom fights back and almost kills the main guy. Even though I'm like, okay, well, I guess she's had training too, but they didn't show any of that.
Yeah.
But, and then he's like, okay, you're cool now because whatever, you could have killed me, but you didn't. But then the guy, the challenger, is just randomly, he's just like grumpy, and he's like,
Yeah.
The leader, the champion, like who is your champion? I don't know. He just started saying a bunch of stuff. I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
And the main leader's like, don't do that. Don't do that. This is not the time. And then Timothy stepped up, and then they fought. And I didn't understand any of the dynamics of what was going on there.
Yeah. And you could have easily written that away with like, hey, the last time one of these guys came to our planet and we accepted him, what happened? You don't even have to say what happened, but you could just show like these aren't the first settlers of this place. Like they could have cemented that idea that like foreigners of this planet are just, conquistadors, or like the that kind of theme that this film is kind of touching on as well, and like just have that instilled, I guess, racism against this House Atreides or whatever. But they decide just to, like, I don't even, like you're saying, I don't even know what exactly he was so angry about.
I don't understand. Yeah.
He did not like his wavy
what
hair. Like, he's like, your hair is so perfect. Why?
I am offended. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
I guess.
And then, sorry.
No, you go.
Oh, with Zendaya, like his character, did you find it like anticlimactic when he finally saw her in person? I just found it really odd because the whole movie, every time you see her character in the dreams and stuff, it's so, over the top and dreamlike and colorful and stuff, that it was very, it was just anticlimactic when he sees her for the first time, and she's just kind of squatting there by the rocks and just looking at him, and it's all gray, like no color. And he just looks at her like he doesn't show any surprise or shock or anything at seeing her in real life. He just talks to her normally, just like, hey, what's up? And she's like, oh, hey. It was really weird to me.
I mean, I guess so. I think this is the first thing I've seen. Oh no, I've seen her in Spider-Man. But this is like kind of non-Spider-Man, the first role I've kind of seen her in. Like, I know she's really popular for Euphoria, which is like a TV show that she's in.
Oh.
And I guess that's what she's renowned for. So this was my first experience seeing her. I think she's like really beautiful, like her face and stuff. Like it's interesting. So I love the dream sequences because it's like she has a unique look. So it's not just some typical girl or actress that we see all the time. So I think that was cool. And yeah, it was a little awkward, but I mean, I think I have a bias towards, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I probably even shouldn't say it on a podcast, but I like films that like set up women as this like dream type thing. And I think that is inherently kind of sexist. I think that's kind of bad because it's like setting women at a certain pedestal, but visually, I think it's always cool. And I think it's just, I like seeing like dreamed, visualized imaginations of a female.
But then the you're saying that you liked that they subverted once it showed her in reality, it was just flat.
Yeah,
and just normal.
I like that. It's like in The Green Knight. I feel like why I really liked, I feel like they kind of did it with Alicia Vikander way better in that film. Is like they set this character up. First she's this. I guess she's in that like prostitution house, and then he dreams of her, and they do stuff together, and then she's a queen. Like, I like the idea of like, I don't like the idea of people setting women up as like dream, like manic pixie girls kind of stuff. I don't like that in real life, but I think in a cinematic visual,
like the trope of it, in movies and stuff.
Visually it's always intriguing. I mean, I think I would. Mm-hmm. I think if they did it with guys, it'd be cool too. Like, I just like the idea of like a character in a story, like being obsessed with someone. I think that's an interesting idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'll I'll get canceled for that. I don't know. I feel
No.
but yeah, and I liked how she's normal. I think she just has like she acts like that in the Spider-Man movies. She's like very dull in like a cool way. Like she just doesn't really give a fuck, and I think that's really cool. Being like in a female performer that it's not like high energy or has to like act a certain way. Like she's just like, what up, dude? Like she's one of the dudes, kind of not
Right,
dude gender wise, but like she just captures like she's not explosively feminine, and she doesn't have to be, and she fits this like weird middle ground where she's like unidentifiable, and I think that's really cool, and I think it fits with this kind of character. And then I don't know what they'll do in part 2, but I would super run with it where, you have Timothy like, I am the chosen one, and I will save Arrakis, and and then she's like, dude, like calm down, dude.
Yeah, I wonder how her acting style is gonna come across in the second one.
Yeah,
with just kind of the tone that they set with everyone else.
But see,
because that's the only where I was talking about the Jason Momoa character, like that was the weird part tone wise. He was the only actor that I was like, doesn't really seem like he fits his personality in this universe because everyone else was so the same.
Yeah. I think Jason Momoa just can't help but have fun. Like they were probably like, all right, don't say a joke this time. And then he said a joke, and then they were like, that's like take 50. We can't do any more. It's like, don't smirk and smile. Look like you're unhappy. All right. And then it's like he looks even happier. Well, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Was he like that in Game of Thrones? Because he was in Game of Thrones, right?
Was he in Game of Thrones? Oh God, I don't remember.
I thought that's what. I mean, he looks like he's from Game of Thrones.
Man, I'm forgetting if you. Oh yeah, he was. Okay. Oh my God, yeah, I can't believe I forgot that.
Yeah.
Yep. No, he wasn't at all like that in Game of Thrones. Actually.
Oh.
Now that I'm remembering his character, he was scary.
Oh,
he was
man.
frightening. Yeah.
So ever since then, he's pledged to be happy in all his roles.
Yeah, he signed a lifetime
joy
pact
coupon
with after Aquaman.
Oh man, yeah. A lot of people like the Aquaman movie. It was not for me.
Oh, I liked it.
Really?
I liked it.
Oh my.
Yeah. I did like that movie a lot.
Oh well. Speaking about Jason Momoa, I think that's one of my favorite scenes is actually with him when he's doing the little fight scene in the hallway with all the like soldiers. Oh, and that's the other thing I really liked is how they like descended from the air, and it wasn't obvious if they were hovering or if there was cords, but they were like those like typical SWAT team people who like descend from helicopters or whatever. What did you think about that whole scene and like those villains?
I don't know. I liked the costumes for some reason. That stood out. I didn't mention that before, but like all across the board, this movie had great, like incredible costumes and like the suits that they wear and like, I don't know, the weird way that it kind of blocks their face.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Nothing really stuck out to me about those scenes. Like the fight scenes.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, oh, I think I kind of zoned out during those a little bit.
I do think there was potential to, like, because they have an interesting dilemma, and like I don't think any other sci-fi film has done this, but it's like the whole shield concept, where if you hit fast, it doesn't do anything, and then you have to like go in slow. I think that is a genius concept, and like I can kind of see like martial arts because I'm a huge fan of like fight choreography and stunt work. So like I see this film and I'm like, oh my god, this is huge potential to do something unique and different, and then make it feel visceral, because I think a lot of fight choreography is revolved around quick or like rapid. Like if you think about John Wick, it's all about like how can I kill this person effectively as fast as possible, and I think this fighting style would make you be very slow and tactile, and I think that'd be a really beautiful thing to capture. And I don't think this film really captured it that well. And like there was scenes with the Jason Momoa character that it didn't really make sense. Like I think there's a lot of logistical things that you would have to get perfect to like really sell this as a perfect kind of device, because there was times when he was slicing people and I was like, wait, you sliced as fast as that other guy sliced, and that didn't hurt you, but then it hurt them. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I think mathematically you would have to like decide, all right, what is the velocity that it doesn't, and like have that set in stone with the fight choreographer so it's like consistent. And I think subconsciously you would register, because there was times when I was like, all right, I don't know. I don't know if this is...
Didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
What you were seeing.
Like, I didn't understand the rules enough to be like, like when you're watching a good fight scene, again, with like John Wick or Jackie Chan, or I'm trying to think of, I don't know, like at a certain point in a fight, you kind of understand what's happening. It's like watching a chess game. You're like, all right, he's gonna, like, oh, now he's being choked out. How is he gonna get out of it? And like that sets up the stress of like, how is this character going to escape this predicament? And I think in all these fight scenes, even though there's a insanely interesting element, the shields, I never understood enough to be like, oh, he's about to die. Besides that one point with Oscar Isaac where he gets shot in the back with that thing.
Yeah,
I think that's the only time they really
made
use the shield in a
right
cinematic way.
Dramatic way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked that. His death was really scary.
Yeah, dude, I felt horrible. Oscar Isaac is like, I don't know. I know you said they were all kind of flat, but I think for me that was like, he just immediately has like this gravity to him. Like, I was like, God damn, dude. Like, Oscar Isaac just feels like a king. He's like, I just saw him in the card counter being like a depressed army vet, and now he's literally a king. Like, he just feels like...
I'll give him that. Like he does feel, he does. He has the presence.
Yeah, like the only other king that has completely sold me is like, your imagined perception of like a perfect king is like in 300 Leonidas. Like, he just feels like a king. And I feel like Oscar Isaac captures that tone of like, but then in this one, Oscar Isaac is just like the sweetest dad ever. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Why is he so nice? Like, and that's the other thing. Paul doesn't even have daddy issues. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's like, he's got the perfect relationship with his dad. I guess not. He has mommy issues, I guess.
Yeah.
If he has anything, because his mom did kind of do him dirty a little bit in her preparation of him, her raising of him. I mean, she's basically just using him as a pawn in her cult. Yeah.
Oh, and then I guess, so what did you think about that whole like betrayal with the doctor? And like, do you think, how did you feel about that?
Oh, that was a little weird. A little weird, like unrealistic or something.
It was very quick. I feel like, I mean, it wasn't obviously set up because it's like a twist, but I think, I don't know, it was just weird. Like, I was like, wait, what's going on?
Because they were pretty careful. Like, they seemed pretty careful and everything. I don't know. It seemed like Oscar Isaac would vet everyone, very carefully and keep an eye on all of them. And, they found the spy it seemed like the assassin that was hiding in the wall, that took a lot of preparation and stuff for them to like, they knew, whoever set that up, I guess that other family. Yeah. They knew how careful. It indicates that they thought that the Atreides family is very careful, and that you have to do something really extreme, to try to kill one of them. But so it was a little weird that the doctor has to be like, the most trusted, person, because he's handing them pills and checking on their health.
And then the whole, like, how would they not know that his wife was captured at some point?
Yeah.
And then, like, the whole idea of, like, all right, they have my wife, I'm going to give you the king. And then, I mean, as that, that doctor is exposed to the political stuff. And I think just in general, you would know that, like a hostage trade never, like he was never going to get his wife. Like, I don't know in this world how you would assume you doing this would grant you the thing you would do. So why would you even do it at that point? And if they're invading, they're going to probably kill everyone anyways. Like, I don't, I just never believe that in stories where someone's like, I'm going to, trade in whoever for something else in return. Like that, I don't think in any reality that's ever worked. Because even hostage situations in our political climate rarely works, like.
Yeah. And we never, also from a cinematic perspective, we never got to see his wife or her suffering or anything. Yeah. So it's kind of like we didn't even connect with.
Yeah.
That would have been a good opportunity to show how evil that guy is. But I mean, I guess we saw just that he doesn't keep his word at all. But
Yeah. And I guess one last thing, I think another one of my favorite shots is with like Oscar Isaac in the chair, like just completely nude.
Oh yeah,
and like
slumped.
Yeah, slumped over. I was like, dude, that's fucking beautiful. Like that just it just looks like if you were to paint that almost like in a, like those old religious paintings with like the Last Supper and stuff. Like I feel like you could paint that painting of just a man, kind of slumped over on a chair as a king. Like I think metaphorically, visually, it says a lot about, leaders or ruling,
While someone else, that other guy just eats his food.
Yeah. What did you think about the whole, like his tooth having like a chemical or whatever gas and all that
Yeah,
stuff?
that was kind of cool. It's a nice revenge. And that was actually kind of scary. And I felt like it was scarier to me than it was even meant to be, but I liked how they filmed that.
Yeah.
When he bit into it, how suddenly the camera kind of dollied out of that room, and you just barely saw there was like a horrifying scream. I don't know if it was the Skarsgård, that actor or whatever that did this some kind of scream that was very scary to me. I was like, whoa, it's really it made me visualize what was happening to them physically because of the poison.
Yeah.
That I was like, wow, that was actually kind of scary.
Yeah.
kind of like a little jump scare almost.
Yeah.
In this movie, so that was cool.
But
then he recovered, like really.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It
really
was
easily.
It was weird how he was just like in the top corner huddling, and I was like, wait, everyone else in the room died. And he was like the closest one to him, so he would have been exposed immediately. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That
unless his girth, his obesity, protected him. The poison wasn't as effective on him.
Yeah,
perhaps, maybe.
I wish it would have at least left some kind of like physical marks. Like maybe his veins would like protrude and they would be blue or something. Like some kind of visual marker. Like, oh, that's what King Atreides scarred him with. But
the background of I mean this probably isn't a spoiler because it's background, like it happened before Dune.
What
can I say it?
Yeah.
I read that Paul's mom, her mom, who was in the Bene Gesserit, was like given or promised to that guy, the fat guy, the Baron. Like, because they're trying to do the genetic, whatever, perfection thing. But then he raped her. And in revenge, like, I guess he was a normal dude. And in revenge, she cursed him with his, malformality or whatever. Like, wow. She cursed him to be how he is. So that was like a curse in revenge for raping Paul's grandmother, basically. So I thought that was like a weird background detail.
Holy shit!
Like that's why he's the way he is. And then also he calls Oscar Isaac cousin in the movie, and that's why, because whatever.
What?
Lady Jessica's mom was raped by him, and that's how Lady Jessica came to be. I thought that was a weird political like backstory thing that I kind of liked.
Man, see, I wanted more of the political stuff. I deeply feel like a lot of it was skimped out on, because people say like the book is dense, like it is like, it is super dense, and
it's 15. There's 15 books in the series. It's like, oh my god.
And that's what I feel like. I think I already said it earlier. Cut out the last 40 minutes and just add 40 minutes of spending time with House Atreides and all this stuff. And I don't know. It's so weird. You would do a part 2 and then you still don't flesh out the political stuff. Like, especially with so much of the story being that, it's like in Lord of the Rings, they do show all the factions of the civilizations in that world. You know, the orcs and the elves and the dwarves and the hobbits. Like, they spend time in each group so you understand what's going on. And I feel like
that's true.
For part 1, this really didn't establish a lot, considering like how much, like if we're just to compare to the Fellowship, like in that one film, you understood every single race, and it still told a narrative. We're here. I mean, we only see two 2 houses and then barely any info on them. And I assume there's more houses. Like they were saying, like 8 to 9 houses, and I don't know.
Feels like it.
So I'm
oh, you know what I just looked up? I was like, okay, like the extended edition of Fellowship of the Ring is 2 hours and 58 minutes, and this movie was 2 hours and 35 minutes.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, like you can fit a lot in like that time, because if you watch the extended edition, it's like dense.
Yeah.
So many details, like you were saying, about all the different. You get a pretty comprehensive like overlook of the world, but in this movie, it felt very focused.
Yeah. Well, was there any other? Oh, one last thing I want to bring up is the little what are they, like mosquitoes or hornet little ships or hummingbird looking things. I really like the design of that and how they like flapped and stuff. Oh, and also how this world. I read that there's no AI and there's no like computer screens in this world because it was all banned at some point, because that like,
oh really?
Yeah, there was like in one of the prequel books, it's like AI, like this was like a normal, like our kind of civilization growing, and then they built an AI that became like sentient, and then they had a huge war with this evil AI that like made other AIs, and then once they defeated that AI, they banned AI forever, so there's no computer or technology that is like able to do anything without human interaction. And that's why like there's that one guy who like flicks his eyeballs to the top of his skull. He has like an implant. There's only like a select few people that have like implants, and then they have like a like a little, I don't know if it's an AI, but they have like some sort of chip to where they can like Google stuff, but they have to do it, so like that person's like a walking Siri in a human.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of like tech stuff that I'm like, damn, like why didn't, because like even Blade Runner 2049, like we had so much in-depth world building, like we really saw how that world operated, and I think visually this film shows it, but we don't get it in an actual like narrative way, where in Blade Runner you see the main character interacting with the world and doing things that affect the narrative and stuff.
Yeah, and man, I was just rewatching little scenes because I was like, I'm gonna try to find, just to prove my point, I was trying to find the most boring scenes from that movie that I could find on YouTube, like just the boring, just talking scenes, and even the most boring, just talking scenes were just so full of like emotion and the cinematography, which I guess different cinematographer. Probably way better cinematographer, Roger Deakins. Like it was reinforcing what they were saying and the emotions of the scene. It was crazy. Like there was the one scene that I watched. I was where Harrison Ford meets who's that actor's name?
Ryan Gosling.
The villain in Blade Runner.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, yeah. Jared Leto. It's when Harrison Ford meets Jared Leto in his little temple, and they're talking, and it's like whenever Harrison Ford shows like doubt, or like Jared Leto says something that would cause Harrison Ford like to feel like despair or whatever. That's it just so happens that when those moments happen, the lights, the reflections or the lights or whatever dim over his face, so that Harrison Ford's face is just in darkness. And then it'll come back up, later, when like a second later when he says something. It's just so every little detail of that movie. I'm like, I guess maybe there's like we should give more credit to Roger Deakins than Denis Villeneuve. I don't know.
Well, but I think it's different because that film is such an expressionistic work. Like I don't think you could do that kind of dimming in Dune and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they're so anti. I mean, it's almost like anti-tech. It's like retro futurism.
Yeah.
In this story, where, I can believe in Blade Runner that when what's his face talks, everything else dims around him. Like I feel like that could literally be, like in the world as a lighting fixture. Like that could be an element, since they have like literally pools of water above their rooms and stuff.
I think that's why I think Dune would make a TV show. Like, just makes sense that it would be a TV show, because TV shows are less focused on the visuals and way more focused on the plot and story and background and characters.
Yeah.
And this Dune is just meant to be a TV show, I feel like.
Yeah.
And meant to have all that space to breathe. But with a movie, yeah, the sets, like all the sets in this movie were really boring too. I don't know. Like, yeah, just and compared to especially, I know I keep comparing to Blade Runner, which maybe isn't fair, but like all the sets in this movie were pretty boring. All the rooms were all the same color. All the walls it's just stone, and the city on Arrakis was just really boring. It looked, when they fly over it, it's just like, okay, this just looks like a sandcastle kind of.
Yeah. Like Mesopotamia type of thing. Like,
and then their home planet too was just really boring. It's just, I don't even remember what any cities or anything looked like. I just remember a big spaceship, and I remember spaceships coming up from underwater. Maybe they lived underwater. I don't know, but just really dull sets and scenes. None of them really stick out to me. Like none are like, oh man, I love that set piece,
So does this film, and I guess this will be the last little topic, well, before our final topic. So does this like lessen your view of Denis Villeneuve? Because I feel like he is one of, our greatest filmmakers, I think. Like, do you sour on him because of this?
A little bit, because I was like, he had so much preparation, and it's kind of interesting what he did in preparing to make this movie. He purposely, made the two big site, Arrival and then Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Like preparing himself to make this genre. And I mean, I'm looking back on his movies, and I really like Prisoners, and I like Enemy.
Yep.
Love, but those are very focused, very not epic movies. And so maybe he's really good at those, but he's good at, I feel like he's really good with original stories, maybe.
Yeah.
Like even Blade Runner, they didn't have a story for Blade Runner that was pre-written. Yeah. Like they had to make one up. So I think he's almost better with original stories that he can craft and sort of play with. But if with something like Dune, where there's so many such a fan base already, and it's so set in stone what people expect, I think maybe he's not very good at that.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's his weakness, is when he feels like he's too restricted like that. But so I kind of want him to just pivot back to, it would be a shame if he just like keeps, I mean, he's going to make the second one, I guess.
Yeah. And he wants to do a third one.
Oh my God. Yep.
And then part 4 and 5 and 6. And then James Cameron's going to take over and do 7, 8, and 9.
Oh yeah. No, we're gonna see the connection, the crossover, Avatar. Avatar Dune universe.
No, he does want to do 3 though. Supposedly Dune, the second book of Dune, I think it's called like Dark Messiah or something. He says that completes the Paul Atreides arc, and that would be his dream, is to finish the whole Paul narrative, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of secretly would hope that he does like George Lucas and just doesn't direct the sequels and then just does his own thing.
Oh man.
But he will probably direct the sequels, and then who knows, if he like pivots to doing like if he does a Marvel movie, I'm out.
Oh no, I don't think he would ever do that. I feel like he is like one of those Christopher Nolan types.
All right.
That's what I believe.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But I guess just to tack on at the end there, I am excited for Dune Part 2 and hopefully Part 3. I think I'm more excited for Part 2 because if it could fix the problems that I have with this one emotionally and narratively, I think it could be 10 out of 10 canon level. Which brings me, and I already know your answer, is this canon?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I would say no either because it's not a complete story. Like even if it was at that limits, just it being this part 1, I don't think I would give the Fellowship or the Two Towers or the Return of the King individually as canon. Like all 3 of them would have to be canon, because I feel like they're all one narrative film piece. In my opinion.
Yeah.
Which
I guess so. if I were to add any of them, then I would have to add all three of them, I guess.
Yeah, because like I mean, as good as they are independently, I still think as a whole they are canon. I don't think the Fellowship is canon and the other two aren't. It's like all three of them are for what they did because they all were doing the same thing. And I think that's like the greatest issue of this is that they didn't greenlight both of them back to back. Like that just seems like the stupidest idea ever. Like now we have to wait 2 years. Like
they must have had no faith that it was going to do well at all.
And
I don't know.
That's crazy. Like why even greenlight it at that point? Like if you're that worried, like why even embark on such an because if it would have flopped, you would have just spent all this money building this film that builds 2 more films, and you're anticipating it failing. Like, why even go into that possible loss?
Mm-hmm.
But
it's really weird.
But anyways, I think that concludes our spoiler discussion, unless you have anything you want to tack on at the end here.
Nope. I don't think so.
All right. So
I'm all duned out.
Yeah. And I mean...
Oh, wait. I do have something. A positive of this movie is that, like, for some... I don't know if you got this feeling, but for some weird reason, after this movie, like leaving this movie, I felt motivated. I had like a motivation in me, and I don't know why. Like the only thing I can think of is it made me feel, I think it's how the characters are in this universe, how they're so focused and like organized or something, that it gave me the feeling like I just want to go out and be like the best that I can be. For some weird reason, this movie made me feel that way, and I don't know why, because obviously you've heard all my criticisms of it.
Yeah.
But I was like, that is what a weird effect that it would have on me. Where I was like, I just want to go out and just like, I think it was the scenes that I liked the most of this movie where they were just strategizing, like sitting in the room and strategizing and stuff. Maybe that just sparked that part of my brain.
Yeah. And see that is like, I feel like you could just have, slap Aaron Sorkin on this, slap, another writer who's good at, creating like political drama. And like this film would have just been intense. Like I think there's a lot of entertainment that can come from, people having objectives and challenges and stuff. Like, I mean, that's why you see like, I mean, it's a bad reference now because of Kevin Spacey, but like the House of Cards was so huge because it's like, people love like, oh, this is what I would do. And then that falls apart. Like that is an inherently human, interesting thing of like playing some sort of chess with obstacles. Like, that's cool. And another weird thing that I feel is when I watch a bad movie, I always feel excited to write because I'm like, I can do better than that. So maybe it's also that it's like you
maybe
having a little high of the like cool people doing stuff, and then this film didn't really impress you that much, so you're like, I can do better. Maybe not in the film, but like it's like it's not.
Just it left me feeling motivated to organize my life for some reason.
Well, we need to share this across the like productivity groups on social media.
Go see Dune. Go see Dune and just get pumped.
And then so I think that concludes our episode. I guess this fully cements that we have to watch Blade Runner 2049 at some point like that.
We do.
Because I mean, you've already been looking at scenes. I mean, we might as well, determine if that is canon. Because I'm feeling some canon energy.
I don't need to determine anything. My brain is decided, but
because I will say my original viewing of Blade Runner, I gave it a 9 out of 10 because I was kind of
the first one.
Blade Runner 2049. And I was like, man, maybe that was a 10. Maybe I need to watch it again. So
I have it at a 9 out of 10 too. But and I'm thinking the same thing. That I would probably bump it up. But
all right, well that'll be coming soon at some point. But anyways, thank you for listening to this episode of Cineverm. We would be grateful and humbled if you could just leave us a review with your thoughts or comments on our takes or the film, and if you could just share us with your friends or family, as that helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Cineverse.